Perhaps you've seen it. Maybe in a dream. A murky, forgotten land.
Welcome everybody to the next episode of Souls News. It's actually been a little while since I made one of these, and that's partly because all of the big news right now deserves its own video, all of which are the most recent videos on my channel, so if you haven't seen those then check them out, they're there if you didn't watch them. But for now, let's open with a discussion about the new Dark Souls 2 trailer that just aired the other day, and let's dissect it a little bit for the small details you might have missed. If you missed the trailer itself, then click the link on screen, it'll open in a new tab, and then come back here to hear what I have to say. So, the opening shot in this trailer actually shows a short cinematic which almost seems like it was cut off prematurely. Maybe it was a glimpse at the prologue, similar to Dark Souls. In this, we can dissect some dialogue, so the narrator starts with, "Perhaps you've seen it, maybe in a dream, a murky, forgotten land, a place where souls may mend your ailing mind." The narrator is referring to the lost kingdom of Drangleic, which she describes in more detail in the next line of dialogue. But for now, why are we seeing Drangleic, the lost kingdom, in a dream? Is this a place where undead are drawn to? I reckon it is. If it's a place where souls may mend your ailing mind, then it's going to sound like heaven to a hollowing undead. Think about it. Imagine you're cursed with undeath, getting more and more hollow every time you die. It would be a fate worse than death. This dialogue tells us that Drangleic is a land of promise for the undying, a place where they can consume souls to keep themselves sane. But remember the game you're playing. This sounds a bit too good to be true. The dialogue implies that people are dreaming about Drangleic without knowing what it is, so perhaps it's a trap. Perhaps you're being drawn into Drangleic, and perhaps this is why there's so many souls there, or perhaps I'm going off on a tangent and making up my own fanfiction, but regardless, we'll see if I'm right in time, so all we have to do is wait. The next line of dialogue is as follows. "Long ago, in a walled-off land far to the north, a great king built a great kingdom. I believe they called it Drangleic." So if you watched my Dark Souls 2 lore video from a few days ago, you would know that I'm certain that Dark Souls 2 takes place in the future, respective to Dark Souls 1. So when the narrator says long ago here, she's describing Drangleic before it fell to ruin. But what ruined this kingdom? Well, we have no hints about that at this stage, but I'm sure we'll find out, once again, if we have a bit of patience. There's only 2 months left, guys. Anyway, the last piece of dialogue from the narrator is at the end of the video. "Your wings will burn in anguish time after time, for that is your fate, the fate of the cursed." I feel like this is in reference to the quote in the original game, "Like a moth drawn towards a flame, your wings will burn in anguish." Just like the undead are reborn at the bonfire after going through death, so too are moths drawn towards their own agonizing deaths. It's a brilliant metaphor for the fate of the cursed. So, overall, this opening scene tells us a bit more than you'd expect at first glance, and same goes for the rest of it, so let's move on to a sort of quickfire round where I tell you a few things I gleaned from these screenshots. Katanas confirmed, hard leather set returns, Faris's hat looks awesome, this dude is creepy as fuck. Bandit set, new double-bladed spear weapon, eagles confirmed, claws confirmed, new bosses, a giant flame lurker-esque demon, an ancient wooden giant who looks really pissed off, a cutscene with spiders, a boss made of people picking something up with his people hands, and a close-up of these dragons that look awfully like the dragon transformations in the Dragon Covenant. Perhaps this is the next stage of their evolution. It'd be pretty cool if true. And last of all, dialogue that you can barely hear over the music. There are a few things said that I can barely make out, and here's the first, so let me know if you hear the same thing. What do you think he said? I have 2 interpretations. The first is, the Mad King will never be forgiven. Foolish human. We know that there's a king in Dark Souls 2, and he seems to be coming up more and more as we learn more tidbits about the game, and I'm certain he'll play a big role. My second interpretation of the dialogue is this: humanity will never be forgiven. Or maybe the mad will never be forgiven. Either way, this seems to refer to humans and how they made some huge mistake that led to them being condemned. Maybe an event in the first game, or perhaps the thing that was responsible for humanity being cursed. So let me know what you think in the comment section right below that like button. Another line of dialogue comes later where a voice actor who sounds like Ingrid says this: "You need the abyss." You need the abyss. The Abyss seems to be born from corrupted humanity or humanity that has gone wild, but why do we need it again? There's a few ways to interpret this. Maybe he's saying that the Abyss truly does represent some true age of man, just like Karth told you in the first game. Or perhaps he's referring to how there needs to be some balance between light and dark for humanity to go on. Once again, you decide. Let me know what you think down below. So capping off this cursed trailer segment, there's one thing in the trailer that you might have missed. It's this. A T for teen rating, as opposed to M for mature. Now that's interesting. I mean, T for teen content is suitable for ages 13 and up, containing violence, suggestive themes, crude humor, and minimal blood. Mature is for 17 and up, containing intense violence and blood and gore. Now I don't think they're toning down Dark Souls 2, so this is kind of strange to me. I mean, some of the things in the trailers is much more horror-esque than before. I mean, torture implements, a boss who has people for hands. I'm surprised they pushed it down to a T rating, but I don't think they're attempting to fit it into one. So anyway, let's move on to the next topic already. In this short but satisfying article, Edge magazine states that Dark Souls 2 will be harder than what we all experienced in the beta. I'll talk more about this in my PvE analysis video, but one thing I did notice was that everyone, myself included, did have a fairly easy time defeating 2 bosses and an entire area in only a few hours. I also note that the mechanics and gameplay in Dark Souls 2 is solid. It's all there. And at this stage in development, From Software is just tweaking, changing damages, balancing stats, little changes that will make a huge difference. In regards to difficulty though, in the most recent beta there was actually a point where a hard mode was activated, where enemies did double damage. And let me tell you, all of a sudden, there were a hell of a lot more bloodstains. People were dropping left and right, and myself included. It goes to show that they can change the difficulty with the flip of a switch, so we just flat out shouldn't make judgments on the difficulty based on what we've seen. Just have faith in From Software, our lords and saviors. And my last piece of news is going to be the gift that keeps on giving, because a little while ago, Namco Bandai announced on their Facebook page that Dark Souls 2 will be getting its own official comic book release. And release of this comic book has already started, so every week, 2 pages of the publication will be released. The first 5 pages have already been released, and they're intriguing for anyone who's even moderately into the lore. The art style is gorgeous as well, so I recommend you go check it out and keep a tab on it. I'll have a bunch of links in the description from everything in this video that you should just click and click and click until you keep yourself entertained for the next few hours. So just open them all in new tabs and enjoy. Cheers guys, I hope you're enjoying the regular videos. Follow me on Twitter at Vaatividya for updates, and make sure you leave a like if you'd like to see more. 2014 is going to be such a huge year, I promise, so make sure you're all subscribed so you can enjoy the journey to and through Dark Souls 2 with me. I'll see you in the next one. Like and the dislike button. If you learned something new in this video, leave a like. If you get 5 out of 5 and know everything, well done, and feel free to leave a dislike. Don't feel guilty, I can take it. Alright, let's do it. Number 1. I'll start us off with something you might have already learnt from my video.